Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. Coming up, fresh data from commercial banks suggests that the Bank of Ghana has scaled back its dollar sales to the market this week. Also coming up, government on track to meet its 4% growth target for 2025, provided the current economic momentum continues. We'll hear from the government statistician.
Finance projected about 4% for 2025 for GDP for this year. Now, first quarter has posted 5.3%. So what this means is that all other things being equal, if things are to go the way we've seen in the first quarter, it means that we're on course.
Coming up. Thanks for being with us. Fresh data from commercial banks suggests that the Bank of Ghana has scaled back its dollar sales to the market this week. Here's George Rafi with more.
Compared to the previous weeks, the amount that the Bank of Ghana has been offering to commercial banks through the spot auction and other avenues have been reducing for this week. One can talk about the total amount, which used to be above $100 million some weeks ago, but has slowed way below this amount for this week. But for some, the development has fueled speculations that the Bank of Ghana may be comfortable with the local currency trading at around the 10 cedi range to a dollar, which President John Mahama recently disclosed that could be the true value of the Ghana cedi to a dollar. But persons close to the Bank of Ghana insist supplies to the commercial banks have always been guided by market demands. So can we make an intelligent guess that maybe we have come to the end of the road when it comes to those sharp daily appreciations of the Ghana cedi to the dollar, which has put the year-to-date gain at more than 40%? And should we be working with the 10 cedis 25 pesos for all our transactions and business dealings? Well, maybe time will tell.
Well, on Zoom with us, Associate Professor of Finance at the Andrews University in the U.S., Professor Williams Wipra. Good afternoon to you. What could be the possible reasons behind the Bank of Ghana reducing its dollar sales to the market this week?
Good afternoon to you, Daryl, and good afternoon to your viewers. So we know that the primary objective of the central bank, which is the Bank of Ghana, is to ensure price stability. And what we noticed within the last month and a half, is a rapid appreciation of the cedi, which also known as a form of a positive volatility, but which also have an impact on how the market operates. We know that the central bank is also because our financial system operates on liberal and floating exchange rate regime. The central bank normally intervenes in the market. So what they were doing was really using a policy strategy to intervene to ensure that the cedi finds its true value. We define exchange rate as the price that we pay for the value of our currency. So what we are seeing is that really is a strategy or a policy that the bank adopted. And now that they have seen that the cedi has found its true value, probably that is why they are trying to slow down their intervention in the market and allow the factors of demand and supply to determine the price of the currency called cedi.
Yeah. Talk to us a bit more about how this decline in dollar supply could affect the exchange rate and forex market sentiment in the short term?
So in the short term, we may see a little bit of depreciation in the cedi. However, as this depreciation comes in, both investors and importers may have to position themselves in that regard. However, it's not pointing to a shortage of foreign currency in the market as it's happened in the past, but this is just the cedi trying to find its true value or price that must be for each of the currencies that the cedi tries to purchase against.
Yeah, could this be, I mean, the strategy all along to peg the cedi between 10 to 12 cedis to the dollar, just like the president sort of suggested a couple of days ago?
Yes.
I guess I guess the question is, what is the strategy of the central bank in this?
So remember, we go back to sometime in 2022 when we saw economic indicators both became very worse, and we were agitating that we should go to IMF. Around that time, the cedi to a dollar was around $1 to $8 Ghana cedis.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, the inflation rate was above 20%. When it hits its peak around 54% in December, that is where we saw the cedi trading above the 15 Ghana cedis to a dollar.
Mm.
Now we've seen inflation dropping to 18%. So gradually, we may have to see a reversal in the exchange rate. So the duty of the central bank is to make sure that this happens. And that is why they use their monetary policy tool, which is the inflationary target. They also use their open market operation to also ensure that we get there. And then the last one they did was to intervene in a foreign market. And that is what has worked. So you could also see a coordination between central bank communication with the presidency or the economic managers. And that is why this is happening. One important element is that currency operates on an information flow. So the moment the president came out with that figure, it means that he had already been briefed what should be the true value. And I think he mentioned it, that between the information he had from the central bank is that the cedi should be trading between 10 and 12. When he mentioned that, I did my check. We have some models we also use, and analysts also projected that. I mean, the figure he has given should be the true value of the cedi, which should be slightly about 2 cedis above the 8 cedis in 2022, and that is what we are seeing now. In my projection, the cedi should get to about 12.5 around by the year by December, if the models if the government keeps on operating as it's operating now. But these are predictions. A lot of economic factors may come to play.
12.5. Well, again, just wondering, so do you see this as a temporary move by the central bank? I mean, this
I don't see
decline the supply of dollars, yeah.
I don't see this as a temporary move because I'm sure they have learned a lesson. They are not going to allow free hand of the demand and supply to determine the price. As they see economic indicators changes, they must intervene. That intervention must be specific and strategic. So as they address, we have to find out what are the factors that causes demand for our currency. We know our energy bill. We know if we are not going to have the cocoa syndication as it happened in 2024, are we going to have it in 2025? So these are the factors they must look out for. And also address the importation, the things that we import too much in the country. If the government may be able to use regulation to come in to address that, this will help us be able to achieve the price stability. In all, the aim of the central bank is to be able to ensure price stability. And price stability is achieved when your exchange rate is stable. You see a stable exchange rate, not volatile as we've seen in the last 1.5 months.
I mean, glad you brought this up because I was also wondering what impact this would have on inflation and import-dependent sectors of the economy?
So for import dependent, as the city has appreciated too much, as we've seen, a lot of people will be able to have the means to import into the country, and which is a major concern. As we import, it means that you are slowing down our country's production and bringing in another country, so it becomes an issue. We know that this government is trying to focus on exports. So the way to address the export is a little bit of seeing a devaluation in our currency. So these are some of the factors that I'm sure the central bank may have to address. And when they allowed a lot of things to be imported into the country, then we will see inflation also going back high, which is something that we need to address. So there's a link. So as I said, the central bank may have to find equilibrium at which level of price in terms of exchange rate with our currency can we ensure that our inflation is stable or goes down, and then also be able to also manufacture and export. Then we must find equilibrium, and that's why I'm sure the monetary policy team and then the central those in the financial sectors regulation are trying to ensure that this is achieved.
How should businesses and investors interpret this development in terms of risk management and currency exposure?
So if I were an importer, this is the time for me to trade forward or hedge, because I don't want to see volatility in the currency. It distorts our operations. For those of us who are also into financial in the financial sector playing, we may have to find out where can we be able to reduce the risks in terms of our investments and ensure that we do not suffer exchange rate losses. These are some of the factors. So I'm sure as the city strengthens, it has a little bit implication for international investors, whether they are not going to see this volatility. But as we are seeing, if we see about within the next quarter, if the city is able to hover around the 10 to 11 ranges, then we can say that we are now on course of price stability, and exchange rate losses can be maintained, and investors can also plan.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Williams-Pepa, Associate Professor of Finance at the Andrews University. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
For speaking to us on the marketplace. We're taking a short break. We have some story developing. We'll break that when we come back. Welcome back to the marketplace. Breaking news this hour: the government has decided not to renew Zoomlion contracts. Joining me in studio with more is Samuel Kojo-Brace, who has the latest information. What are we picking up, Samuel?
Well, what we do know is that, and let me just set a background to the story. We do know that Manasseh Azura, who is an investigative journalist, wrote to the president concerning the Zoomlion contract in April. The president is now replying, stating that on the expiration of the contract, the president says the contract between Youth Employment Agency and Zoomlion Ghana Limited has expired and will not be renewed. 2, he says all payment made to Zoomlion after the contract expiration will be thoroughly audited. No further payment will be authorized without proper verification, and any unauthorized payment will be recovered. Then he says Cabinet has directed that future sanitation contract be subjected to a competitive procurement process. Rather than one national contract, there should be a regional or district-based tenders for private firms. This could reduce cost through competitive pricing and stimulate innovation as companies compete on service quality to secure contract. A cabinet subcommittee will develop the modalities for implementing this. Then he says, Manasseh speaks about how much we pay the sweepers. This letter says, with probable cost savings, the government intends to increase the sweeper fees to a more livable income. So the sweepers do now can anticipate a proper or better payment for them. He says, fumigation contract. Now, the contract that have not been performed satisfactorily will be reviewed and, where appropriate, terminated in accordance with their terms upon the advice of the Attorney General. And this letter is signed by Callistus Muhammad.
Wow. This just coming in. Zoomlion contract is not going to be renewed by the government. Samuel Brace telling us about this. I'm told we are joined by Manasseh Azuriah, who has been following the story all through. Quick reaction from you, Manasseh.
Daryl, this is one of the best pieces of news I have received in my journalism career, because I first broke this story on Joy FM in 2013 and have since continued with updates, with advocacy using social media and then main media platforms. And it appeared nobody was prepared to listen until His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama took this decisive step. I can only be thankful to him for this, because it's going to save Ghana some money, is going to improve our sanitation, and also, more importantly, the people who go out every day to battle with filth will get something, a livable fees, as the president put it.
Well, Brace just laid out some of the concerns raised by government for which it took that decision. For the benefit of our audience, what are the questions raised about the Zoomlion contract?
One has to do with the fees paid for this contract. The arrangement has been that the government would give Zoomlion 850 cedis per month, according to the contract. And then Zoomlion would pay the sweepers 250 cedis and then keep 600 cedis per sweeper as management fees. And we're looking at 45,000 people on record. On the ground, we didn't have that number, but that's how much Zoomlion was billing the state. So the company would make about 27 million cedis every month as management fees, but those shipping went home with practically nothing. There has also been the issue when the people don't show up to ship, many of them because the money was not good and they could be in arrears owed for up to a year. So the assemblies had to use their own internally generated funds to employ sweepers to go and sweep the markets when Zoomlion is paid every month for the same work. And this and many others. And I also mentioned the mode of contracting and also fumigation and other contracts within the sector. And I think those are some of the issues the president addressed in addition to this one-year contract.
I mean, you have been investigating this for years. What has Zoomlion, what have they had to say in defense of the questions raised?
The major thing Zoomlion has often said is that, well, these people don't work for up to 8 hours a day. And we all know sweepers. The multimedia group has sweepers, cleaners, some of whom come very early in the morning. Before we come to work, they are gone the ministry. That's how sweepers work. But the question is, if someone doesn't work for 8 hours, for which reason you think he or she should be paid 250 cedis a month, why do you as a company take 600 cedis to manage a 250 cedis worth of work? And we are not looking at just one person, but you claim to have 45,000 and you take 27 million cedis every month to supervise people who you claim don't work for that much. So this has been one of the issues. And also the company has been saying that the government doesn't pay every month. But it is instructive to note that this contract is such that if the government doesn't pay for 3 months, Zoomlion charges interest on the arrears the government owes the company. Last year, for instance, it charged 90 million Ghana cedis arrears. That's the interest on arrears. So contractors can sometimes be owed up to 5 years or so, but Zoomlion, after 3 months, the government must pay interest on the arrears. And when Zoomlion delays in paying the sweepers and the government pays this interest, it doesn't translate to the sweepers benefiting from this interest. So it has always been a mess. the assemblies didn't have control or don't have control over these contracts. Remember, they used to be very effective even doing this in summer concept. But when Zoomlion came, all of that was collapsed and they gave the contracts out.
I have just about a minute. We're yet to hear an official response from Zoomlion to this. But I guess the question people would be asking also is why now? Why did it take so long for this decision to be reached? If there were questions about it, one would think that there would be an audit of the operations of Zoomlion to really hold them to task.
Well, I can simply say, and many people who know how these things work, it appears the government officials who have handled these deals have been compromised and they are not prepared to do what is right because there have been enough pieces of evidence. Remember the JIDA report President Mahama commissioned in 2013, page 131 of that report, which is online, outlines the anomalies with this contract. So it is it's been late, but better late than never. And all the same, I'm grateful to President Mahama that he's taking this step.
All right. Thank you so much, investigative journalist Manasseh Azurawini, for joining us. As we continue to digest this breaking news, really, that Zoomlion contract will not be renewed by this current government. The sweepers' fees would be increased. We will have more on this developing story, I bet, in our subsequent bulletins. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for watching The Marketplace.